I don't know what episode this is, but I know what podcast this is. It's the Talkin' Shop podcast. Ballgame, Chop, and the third amigo, Sean Flikke, is in the house. It's good to have you, listener. We are fresh off of what they call a webinar or a master class. It was live. 250 people were on there, and we were talking coaching. Fired me up. Choparewski, takeaways from the webinar that we just did.
Man, it's really awesome to see, like, just looking through the chat, how many folks are interested in what we're doing. And that makes you feel good and validated as a coach, but more importantly, you know the impact it's going to have. So good on you, coach, for getting that set up. I'm just super thankful to be a part of it. And I can't wait for us to impact lives in a positive way.
Couldn't tie in more beautifully to our podcast. It was just like doing a podcast, but with 250 people in the chat asking us questions. Flick Money, takeaways.
Poughkeepsie, New York, the Netherlands, the Czech Republic, Austria. Good day, mate. Right? I mean, it was a veritable potpourri, a United Nations of coaches, people interested in transforming culture. Jersey. There were people there was a place, I live in the state of Washington. There was a guy from a town called Roy, Washington.
Yeah.
Named a town after Roy.
You've been to George.
Been to George, Washington. Never been to Roy, but I'm going now. So that was exciting just to see the breadth, coach, of what you two have got going on here, and also the wider movement to transform youth sports in a positive way.
Well, this is a big part of it. So many emails I get and texts and Instagram notes from the podcast we do about how it's helped a relationship with a father-son, with a daughter, with a mother. And that's everything. That's the most important part is a lot of these parents take this stuff home from the field and it ruins their relationship. So to all of you that attended, man, it sure was a fresh of breath air. Baby. And I guess we're bringing baseball and good coaching techniques to Europe and beyond, which is amazing. So I've got some topics to hit. I've got some emails that we're going to hit on because they touch on some very important topics. But just go around the horn. What's going on in your world, Choparewski? You got the Expos flying. What's cooking?
Yeah, man. Little League practices are in full effect. Club practice is once a week now. We're doing a 4-hour practice on a Sunday, which we had our first one a couple days ago. And I checked in with the boys. I'm like, hey, how was that? This is the longest practice we've ever had. And they loved it. So that was really cool to get that feedback. They said it flew by. It felt like a half hour. And so that's by design, keeping it moving with stations and then finishing with a scrimmage. A ton of Got a big announcement. We're partnering with the town of Oro Valley.
Wait. Big announcement alert. Big announcement alert. A little drum roll, please.
Yeah. We're partnering with the town of Oro Valley for 9 weeks of camp this summer. So the town wants to be a part of what we're doing, and we're super thankful. It's an amazing town. It's like top 10 in the country for safety and just overall awesomeness. Now they just jumped into the top 5 in the country for baseball camps after this announcement. So good. Congratulations to the town of Oro Valley.
Man, slap me silly and call me Ian Kinsler. Well done. Flick Money, what's going on in your world, my brother?
Big news out of the Flick Money camp is that Friday night I emceed a fundraiser for Seattle Select Baseball. Now, there are a lot of travel ball and select programs that are doing it for the money, for the trophies. This organization was the first one of its kind in Seattle. It's run by Dave Snell, former minor league pitcher, but you might know him better as the father of 2-time Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell.
There you go.
And he and his 5 sons coach teams from U8 to U18. They do it the right way. They're in it for the right reasons. They give away a ton of scholarships. So this fundraiser was to raise money so that they could give travel ball scholarships, Cooperstown trips, 13U Little League World Series trips to families that otherwise wouldn't be able to do it. And they're not the kind of people that just go and pick the best kids off of other teams and say, here's your scholarship. They truly do need-based stuff. They're awesome. So I was on the mic for about 5 hours, I ran a two-man show with King Five Emmy award-winning sportscaster Chris Egan here in the Seattle area, and it was so much fun. And Blake Snell, who has not signed yet, unbelievably, still unsigned. So he was there in full effect in his puppy jacket. He was bidding on stuff, driving the bids up, going crazy, having fun, and is out coaching, literally waiting for a phone call to go in between his workouts. He's still coaching his team through their winter workouts. Will not leave those boys until the last possible second. So that was a big event and a really cool experience.
My gosh, you had to be so in your element and so good there. Is there a more uh, precise joy you feel anywhere else than the impact, knowing that those 5 hours are going to give a kid a chance to go to Cooperstown, stay in some barracks with some friends, and have a core memory, a lifelong memory? I don't know, man. Is there any more joy than that, Coach?
There is no more joy than that. No, it was truly paying my experience forward that I had as a player, all the things that I got to do as a kid that made my life meaningful, that gave me memories that last forever. To be able to pay that forward to some kid who doesn't know what's coming yet. Some kid woke up this morning and still it doesn't know that they're going to be on a plane to Cooperstown in 5 months. Pretty awesome.
Man, oh man, oh man. Um, well, that's cool. What's been going on with me? Avery Jean is sick today, out of school. My 10-year-old had her birthday party on Saturday, and maybe she just partied a little hard. 15 10-year-olds at a Taylor Swift themed party in the backyard. I mean, I met my match. I can usually wrangle 50 to 100 kids and get them to listen, but wow, that was not happening there. I step back and I let things explore. I let them explore the space, and the neighbors, they just had to deal with it. It was loud, but very fun. A great memory for her. But now she's under the weather, so she's home reading some books. At a girl, Avery Jean. A huge shout out to Mrs. Ballgame, who not only kicked me in the bahonkus and told me, you know what, you need to create this thing called Coach Ballgame. You need to start running camps and start running after school programs and start going around the country. But she built every part of the website, and she has built every part of the Kajabi website with this Coach Ballgame playbook. So she was up all night, through the night, trying to figure it out. She didn't want to hire somebody. She learned it all herself. So huge Atta girl. Send her an Atta girl on Instagram at Mrs. Ballgame, because she's dialed with the eye black salute. She gets the Rapunzel salute. She got some long hair right now.
Eye black, and this is the eye black and mascara salute, Coach. A lot of people haven't seen that one. It's a combo platter.
On today's webinar, which kind of explored what we're going to learn next week in the playbook, Flicky and Chopper will be there, and there will be a VIP session after each day. That's next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Was the chat and the questions. And I wanted to throw this at each of you. You saw a bunch of questions, a bunch of comments from all over the place. Maybe Chopper, start with you. The one that caught your eye the most, the question that or the topic that got you fired up.
Yeah, a lot about culture, a lot about how do we hold kids accountable without making it punitive. I thought Coach Flicky had a great response to that, where you can kind of come alongside an athlete and just say, hey, we want to hold each other accountable because we're working towards a goal. But we also don't want to have that kind of that tied to negative where running and conditioning is a bad thing. It's not. It's just us working towards a goal. And so I know for me in my practices, if someone doesn't execute a rep, there is no yelling. It's not a punishment. It's just we're holding each other accountable. We go to the fence and back, and we get right back at it. And it's not a big deal. It's really just, hey, we're trying to hold ourselves to a standard. and this is kind of what it looks like, and everyone knows it, and they know they're loved through that process. It's really going to be great being able to do a deeper dive next week and just be able to, like, we just kind of scratched the surface today, but to be able to go deep into kind of how we handle different things. And it's really things that we've just learned. Like, we got it wrong so many times that we've learned from it. And if we can help others not make the same mistakes that we made, I know it can really be impactful.
What's the difference? You said that word punitive. The difference between shaming a kid to run a lap or pole and teaching a life lesson. I mean, break that down. What is the difference between the positive and negative cultures of you're asking a kid to do the same thing, a consequence? What's different?
Well, for me, it's establishing ahead of time. Here's our expectations. We're going to come up with that charter as a team, right? And what I really want to impress upon them, we have a limited amount of time together. That time is precious. So if you make a choice that costs us a chance to get better, you waste your personal time or you waste your teammates' time doing something, then as a reminder of how critical that time is, we as a team agree that this is something we value. And so that's where, Chopper sends them to the fence. I like to give kids choices. You can hit me with 15 push-ups, you can hit me with 35 crunches, or if you feel the wiggles, you can sprint down that right field line, touch the pole and come back. I'll give you 3 options. Rejoin us when it's completed, with no shame in the game. And it's pre-established. So it becomes its own, takes on a life of its own when kids are like, come on, man, get out to the fence, you goofing around, they start policing them. That's when you really see that it's a positive thing versus a punitive screaming thing. You don't even have to say it.
That's a great point.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Coach, that is a great point. We, at the high school level, we had so much fun with "to the fence" and everyone's like pointing, and it's like, it becomes this really fun thing where in most other practices it's dark. It's really light. It's like, I bet you didn't get it down. You get the butt down to the fence, and everyone, it's super fun. We almost celebrate the fact that we're holding each other accountable.
Weird how you can say "to the fence" a couple different ways. I heard a coach coaching a softball team the other day, and a girl made a bad throw, and I heard the words "come on," but I immediately got taken back with the tone of it. It was "come on." It was shame. It was shaming. It was It was meant to embarrass and be punitive. And again, I don't think that coach is trying to sabotage that kid's career, but man, it's a long road ahead if that's a tone. Where the same words, "come on," where you as a coach aren't coming from a place of failure or of insecurity, but this has been pre-established. This is how we play the game of catch, and it's not the end of the world if you mess up, but the choice is yours. So I really love that idea of the same phrase being said 2 different ways and kind of shining a light on how I used to say it as a young coach. Flick Money, in that chat, you were able to answer some great questions live. What was the most impactful topic that you saw?
Well, they were all impactful, right? So it's just because what we were getting is like 250 coaches and concerned adults were in that webinar. And so what you're hearing is it's almost like nerve cells in the body. They're sending messages to the brain. If we were collectively were the brain, they were sending us messages from their particular vantage point. Here's where the pain is here. Here's the pain where the pain is here. Here's the thing that I noticed here. So it was all amazing. And I was, the desire to grab them all and answer them all was so strong. I probably put you over a few minutes on your webinar topic, just trying to, on your timeline, just trying to scoop up a couple. One that stuck with me was, the guy said, "I'm on board. I'm here. I'm in the webinar. So you already know on board. But my kid's coach is not on board. My kid's coach yells at his own kid. My kid's coach, so now how am I going to influence a person who's chosen to work with our children, right, on the one hand, but is definitely in the old school model of yelling and screaming and shaming, and how am I going to influence that person?" And I just thought, man, that's a real challenge, right? Because on the one hand, first of all, the guy deserves a thank you and a hug for hitting 500 ground balls a day to kids. Hopefully, there's some at least getting some quality reps and stuff in there. And at the same time, there's got to be a conversation. So just pointing out, same way we talk about with kids, we're going to praise loudly and we're going to constructively criticize quietly. So that's got to be a cup of coffee conversation between you and that adult.
Yep.
And
Yep. That's trust.
get a
Trust
temperature
built.
check.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't get a chance to dive too deep in the webinar on the where it comes from, but I think this is a good place to do it. That punitive, that tone, that come on, what's wrong with you? That tone, where does that stem from? Why is that guy? Why is the 22-year-old Coach Ballgame having that tone towards an 8-year-old? I'll answer first. It was because that 8-year-old wasn't acting like me when I was 8. I was the 8-year-old who you had to drag off the field, and I was, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I will do anything you say. And I gave it 100% effort. Straight A student. Never rocked the boat with mom and dad. Always listening. And that was me. So there was a self-righteousness about my coaching, where it's my way or the highway. Meanwhile, that kid's not me. That kid isn't wired like me, doesn't want to be there, but needs to be there. So I can speak from experience. That was me. Chopperoo, where does it stem from for you?
I think it stems from insecurity as a coach and them thinking that their identity is found in the result of a kid's attitude, his play, the results on the field. Speaking personally, like there's a couple things I've been working with my group for over a year now, my younger group. One that stands out is I don't love how we take the field. There's no urgency. And so it's been a full year. And on Sunday, when we had our longer form practice, was the first time that I implemented 7 seconds on, 7 seconds off. And I told them why. It was like, hey boys, right now it really doesn't matter. But when you get to high school, there's a good chance, quite a few of you, it's going to matter how you take the field, and you won't play if you don't do it the right way. So we're going to introduce it here. We're going to do it with grace. But also it sends a message to your opponent, to your teammates, to scouts someday. If you reach that level where a scout's going to be like, man, that kid really loves it and wants to be here. So, but I didn't address that day one. I let it go for nearly a year. So the key there is having patience as a coach. You can see things that you need to work on eventually, but don't die on a hill that's not worth dying on when kids are 9 and 10. Die on the hill that they know that you love them and care about them.
Yep. Bang. Coach Flick Money, I'll pass the mic to you. The punitive, the shaming tone, where does it stem from for you?
I'm going to echo what both of you said, that I think there's a reflection of the coach. They believe that whether the child does or doesn't do what they expect them to do, that it's a reflection on them. I think when a child doesn't do it, I think there's a sense of I'm failing, which brings out anger. And so that hooks into what Chopper's talking about, insecurity. Because how would a child doing something wrong and learning and making a mistake and getting a chance to do it, to learn from that, how would that in any way be a failure on me? But that goes back to that old school mentality. And I will just say that, I always think of like Bobby Knight as the old college basketball coach as kind of like the ultimate example of this. But I think, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even, when the American class structure or the line of income was much flatter than it is now. Now we've got mega billionaires, but it used to be, most people were working class, a lot of factory jobs, a lot of blue collar workers. And I think there was a sense that you could teach from that perspective, because the core stuff of what a kid needs for their identity, for their well-being, already, and a lot of the lessons of how to be a man, they were already getting those at home. There was a real identity already wrapped up in that. But so much of that stuff has changed. You know what I mean? Like the factories are gone. Let's be honest. The job market is completely changed, right? There's more divorces than ever. There's just so many things that have changed that this coaching stuff has to change with it. And I think there's kind of a misguided nostalgia on the part of a lot of baseball coaches for the way it used to be, and that it used to be better. And you know what? It wasn't. It wasn't better. It still ran a lot of kids out of baseball even back then. It's not like it worked for everyone back then. On top of which, what about kids? I mean, what about kids of color? What about kids from marginalized communities, first generation? They go out to a field and there's an old, mean, angry white guy screaming at them because he doesn't understand, the way that how they move or what joy looks like in their body, and he takes it as some kind of personal affront to what he's doing, the way he's running practice. I mean, I just think of how many people might have been negatively impacted by and not even poorly intentioned people, as we're talking about. So
yeah,
yeah,
well
misguided
intentions.
nostalgia.
Yep, and makes it even that more important for coaches to be there and be the mentor for the child through these changing times. I got a few emails and I sent them on our text thread, and I want to start with this one. And this is coach on parent, and we've talked a little bit about coach on coach, coach on parent, coach on kid, but this particular coach sent this in. We have one overly supportive dad, a great person, and his son has a mountain of talent, but the son gets nervous when dad starts cheering him on. He is always positive, but it is a lot. On the few times that dad's not able to show up, the kid does very well. So, as a coach, my question is, how do I politely ask the dad to maybe back off, give his kid some room? That's a tough one. Let's start with Flicky on this one. Flick Money, what's your gut for that coach?
My gut is, we've already spoken to it, praise loudly publicly, and then, but that's got to be the constructive criticism part has to be a quiet conversation. And what we're really talking about is, because the dad's attempting to be positive, what we're talking about here, though, is that communication isn't just the words that we say. You already spoke to it beautifully. Tone has a lot to do with it. And there's energy that belies the words. And when that energy is anxiety, when that energy is fear, when that energy is tightness, when that energy, even saying positive things, but it's coming out in that way that everyone's like noticeably uncomfortable, then that's really what I think, that's the instructive conversation. You're saying well, I don't know what the dad's name is, but let's say it's Ted, because I just thought of it. Ted, love your enthusiasm. Like, you are everything that's great about fathers and sons and caring for your kid. Here's what I'm noticing. Here's the data that I'm noticing. A couple times you haven't been able to be there. I've noticed your son has performed really well, and you're saying all of the right things. So what I deduce from that is that there's some energy coming through that is actually creating less of the kind of free, in the moment, peak performance type mindset that we're hoping for your son. So can we work together on, let's just bounce some ideas off of each other as to what could be beneficial, and try to engage him in the process. Hopefully it doesn't come off as like you're doing it wrong, because inside of Ted is still a little leaguer who probably heard he was doing it wrong, and that's probably where some of that angst comes from. He wants to do it right so badly. He's just gonna do, dad, I'm gonna be the right dad. And so how do we work with that? Yeah, that's gonna be that would be an ongoing process.
Yeah, I see it all the time. Kids feel your energy more than they hear what you say. So what that energy that belies. Chopper, anything to add for that coach?
Yeah, I mean, spot on, Coach Lick. I would say a couple ideas potentially is maybe they go Coach Ballgame's dad route, where it's like, hey, just go throw, sit in a lawn chair out in left field, and let's try to just be don't be seen, don't be heard, don't be seen. And let's try that. But I agree with what you said, Flick. Like, it's got to be kind of this mutual deal where you kind of spitball and hopefully make that the parent's idea. I do want to touch on one thing that you sparked my mind when you were talking, Flick. with kids. And this just happened, a week ago Sunday. So a couple weeks ago, I had an athlete where we were down 7-3 in the last inning and we roared back and it was 7-6, tying around on third, 2 outs, one of our best hitters. And he hits a rocket to second base. We get out, game's over. So we meet up after. I'm super pumped, loved the character we showed, fought back. And I asked the hitter, I go, hey, dude, were you nervous? And he smiled. He goes, yeah, I was really nervous. I go, hey, couple of things. Let's change the label, right? Because you can label it nervous or you can just label it excited. Like it's an opportunity. And spoiler alert, we're going to fail way more than we're going to come through. Acknowledge that it's okay. Like it's totally okay to fail. But let's change the label and let's call it what it is. You're just excited. And if you didn't have that emotion, you shouldn't play the sport. So that, I think that's a big point for coaches to express to kids.
Beautiful.
Maybe in this case, parents. We
Yeah,
get
and
you're
parents.
excited. Underneath the excitement, there's some energy, and I really love what you're saying, Chopper. I think these are all experiments. It would, if I was that team's coach, I would say, the conversation with the dad, I would say, let's experiment. Let's get some data together. Let's try the Doug Lowe left field lawn chair, nose and total silence, and see how your kid plays. Let's try, let's try modulation of tone of voice. Maybe we try you in the dugout with me, and you're going to be my game changer scorekeeper for that day, or you're going to be in charge of, setting up the tunnel every time we score a run or whatever. Let's find a productive way to use it. And maybe we can, over time, we can experiment and find the most effective place for the energy of 50 human beings.
Yeah, I tell you, you inspired me, Flicky, with your thoughts on not othering that person. With that, you can't make them an outsider, and you're the one telling them what to do. It's got to be a two-way street. Otherwise, it's going to get worse. So have mutual respect for that person. Come from that positive reinforcement place of here's all the amazing things that you're doing. And I think we're going to get more production out of that boy of yours if we at least just try it. Let's just give it a try, and then everybody's happy. And then your needs are met, mine are met, the kids' needs are met. And I'm just the conduit. I got
Coach,
another topic, but hit it up.
just to add to that, if you have the relationship with the athlete and the dad, bring the athlete in. We've talked about this on previous podcasts of, hey, little Johnny, what do you got? Like what do you like to hear from mom or dad, or what gets you in the right space? I've had that conversation with my son of like, what are you cool with mom and dad saying? We love you. We want to support you. What works, what doesn't, and he told us like, I'm cool with you saying be athletic, but anything else I don't like. Okay, bet. We're here to support.
I love that. Duke Baxter on this podcast talked about use the term fan. What kind of fan do you want me to be? What kind of fan do you want dad to be for you? What's going to make you produce better? It's
Great
wonderful.
stuff.
I'm at a sandlot, and my kid, nicknamed Admiral Wolf, he steps up to the plate, and dad is right behind him, micromanaging every move. And that first swing and miss, most kids would just slump over, kind of look and see if dad's still looking. Admiral Wolf takes his helmet off, looks right at dad, and he says, "Hey, dad, you're messing everything up. You're making it so much harder for me." I mean, the ability to have that communication with your dad, that's huge. So that dad's doing something right to be
Yep.
able to build that within that child, to have an open line of communication is huge. So yeah, a lot to take from that. I got another topic. Anybody else to button up that right there? This one is parent to coach. So this is a parent, and it's a 9-year-old team, and a parent is upset with the um, coach's culture that he's setting of playing time. A lot of kids are sitting out more than others. Some kids sitting out 3-4 innings at a time, as opposed to everybody getting an equal amount of playing time. And it's a very in-depth email, but the general sense is playing time upset at a 9-year-old level, what is a parent to do with that coach? Chopper, we'll start with you on that. I mean, I'm sure you've had parents come up to you and talk about playing time.
Yeah, a couple things. When you're looking at where you want to put your kid, you want to ask the coach what his goals are, what defines him as a coach, what are his intentions. And it sounds like, and I'm speaking with limited knowledge on it, from reading that email, that this coach is trying to win games, and that's really all he's trying to do. So that's difficult as a parent, and you have control over who you put in your child's life. So it's a conversation that, like I said, when you're trying to figure out where you're going to land as a family, you have every right to ask a coach what defines him and what are his goals with your kid. I know for us, we have lower rosters, and I do see both sides of it, because there is this level of, as a coach, you want kids to work towards something. And it's like, hey, on a specific day, these are the kids that are going to get the majority of the playing time that is earned from practice and maybe the results on Saturday. So I see that side of it. What I have kind of evolved to is limited rosters and playing everybody. And that very well may cost us a game or two, but kids got to play. They got to play. And you learn from that experience. So kind of playing both sides of the fence as a coach, but more importantly, as a parent, if that's not going to change, your kid's not getting any value from sitting on a bench for 4 innings.
Yeah. Mark DeRosa said that kids got to play. Go where you're going to get some playing time. Get your reps in. Flick Money, what do you got for that, Dad?
Well, I think this is one of those great teachable moments with your child. Teaching, I would say to the dad, empower your child to have the conversation with this coach. And we can sit down and work on it together. But point one, coach, I want to play more. That's my goal. Number two, I respect you as my coach, and I'm noticing I'm not playing as much as I hope to be playing. So what are you seeing? What is it that you're seeing that's leading to the decision? What do I need to get better at? And essentially, let's come through that door first, because number one, you're teaching that child to take responsibility for themselves, for their playing career. You're teaching them to be respectful of a coach for donating all that time and energy, right? You're not making any assumptions about or judgments about why the coach is making the decision. You're saying, let me, what are my controllables here? My controllables are my own effort, right? How I show up to practice, what I work on. Then, I think that's going to make him a much better husband. There's a character thing: husband, father, community member, leader. Now we get to the second level. So have that conversation. Coach says, you're just not as good as this guy or this guy. It doesn't really necessarily give you a pathway forward. Then I think it's a real conversation to have with your family, which is not getting the playing time, right? Is it more important to me to be on this specific team because my friends are on it, because I've always been on whatever, or do I need to find a different situation? And make a decision as a family. But I would lean on, let's empower that child to take responsibility for themselves and learn what they can learn. And sometimes, unfortunately, the lesson is you don't always get what you want.
And that coach feels that tension when you're upset that your kid's not getting playing time, and that kid is upset that they're not getting that. But Chopper, Flicky, I bet you can both attest, if a kid comes up to you and says, "Hey, coach, what can I do better to get more playing time?" Right away, something clicks in you that there's respect there from that kid, and you're going to take an extra look and see, okay, that kid stood up for himself, came up to me and asked, "What can I do?" Because I'm hungry and I want to get more playing time. So I love that for that dad out there, and I'm sure there's a lot. Teaching moment, big time.
Coach,
I've got one more, but yeah, I want to keep on.
Keep jumping in. I think it's really powerful. Flick, you said it. For kids, and maybe this is a little young. It is young, but as they get a little bit older, find out what coach says you need to work on, and then work on it. Because there is some kids that hear from a coach, hey, you got to work on X, Y, or Z, but they don't put in the work. And then they keep wondering why they're not playing. And that's the lesson of like, you got to find what you're passionate about. You got to find something where working at it doesn't feel like work. It feels like this exciting journey that you're going towards something. And if that's not baseball, that's okay. What is it for you? Is it chess? Is it art? Is it what? Basketball, football, rugby, debate team? Who cares? Dance team? Like, what is it that you wake up every morning and you cannot wait to go after? And that's critically important. I have kids that have been in my circle of influence that same kids, same talent level, same amount of playing time. And one of them has worked their way outside of practice because that's where you get better. And they put themselves in the starting lineup. And the other, you can tell. It's just like a teacher when they give a pop quiz. You know who's reading the book, and you know who's looking at the notes, and you know who is engaged, and you know who's just there because mom and dad say they have to be there. And so that's a big part of it. Flick, you sparked that in me with one of your comments.
Eye black, mustache, beard, mutual respect salute.
Mascara, compound.
That's a bow, coach.
That's a
It's
bow
mutual,
for shizzle.
mutual respect bow.
Final topic today is from a loyal fan and listener of the podcast. Says this pod has helped him with his actions, not only with his own child, but the rest of his family and beyond. Your content made me realize that our actions and reactions as parents and coaches really make a difference. We have hit a hurdle with my son. He's very scared of being hit by the pitch. And I bring this up last because it's the most common email I get. We've hit a hurdle, and it's the coaches and I have been maintaining positivity, trying to say the right things, no negative stuff, to defeat this issue without ruining his love for the game, as well as several different drills and repetition, but nothing seems to be working. I am supportive of him no matter the outcome, but I can tell that this struggle is really ruining his outlook on the game itself. That's a beautiful email, and you are definitely in the right place where you're at. Let's start with Flick Money on this one. Seems like they're at their end of the line here, brother. What do you got?
Yeah, this is for me personally probably the most. There's such vulnerability both on the part of the dad and the player in a situation like this, and then when the dad's the coach, I can imagine this is hitting really, really hard. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for your vulnerability, for the question, and I think this has to be player driven right here. As he beautifully stated, we're doing drills, we're trying things, we're saying the right things. It's not about the words. This has to be player driven, and it might be the player's truth that I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to. I don't. Maybe I don't want to hit anymore. Maybe I love pitching. I actually really love pitching, but I don't want to hit anymore. Or but if the player says, no, I don't want to be afraid of the ball anymore. I need help with this. I understand I need help with this. I don't know how to stop panicking. Then we're gonna come up with all the drills, and there's a million things we can do to train the brain to not be as impacted by a ball flying in their general direction. But if the player's truth underneath the truth is I actually want to be done, I think we got to honor and respect that. There's absolutely nothing wrong. I don't particularly, my body freaks out trying to do a backflip. For some reason, when I get disoriented with my head over, my body is a hard no go. And at some point I quit trying to make myself do it and just said, you know what, I choose not to do backflips anymore. So, it's a really tender conversation to have. And I don't know that players without context, does that young man really love baseball and wants it so badly and doesn't know why this thing's happening and it's making it frustrating? Or is it really a deeper message of like, I'm over this thing flying at my head. I'm over the bruises and the bumps and it doesn't feel good to me, and I don't get enough on the positive side to make it worth it for me. And so I think that's the conversation I would start with.
Yep, I think it's a good opportunity to share you as a dad, your vulnerability. What scares you? Is it the backflip? Is it being a dad? I think you can have a real open conversation, and a lot of times that's the missing link. Is they just feel alone, and it doesn't sound like that here. I mean, you are incredibly supportive, and it seems like the team has rallied around. But sometimes just an authentic story of what really scares you can go a long way. Chaparooski, have you run into this at your club ball level?
Yeah. And the first thing I tell kids that are that have that healthy fear, it's a healthy fear. It's 6 ounces of pure intimidation of baseball. But is that I was afraid of the ball, and kids look at me like, oh, there's Coach Chop, had some success in the game, whatever. He's not afraid of anything. He's like, no, I was deathly afraid of the baseball till I was like 14. And so a lot of times if you can come alongside him in that way, they're like, really? It's like, oh yeah, it's natural and it's okay. If you do love the game, assuming you do, to Flick's point, if you don't, then yeah, go find something that you're comfortable with, whatever potential negative outcome, the positive outweighs the negative. But in baseball, for me, there was no other joy. That was, is, and will always be my passion, that and people. And so it was just knowing that I was going to grow out of it, and I was going to be okay. And I still had to anticipate a good pitch to hit. I still had to believe that there was going to be something good. And I learned how to be able to cover my moneymaker in my hands. And if it was coming at me, I would turn. And we have more time than we think. But it's healthy, it's natural, and it's okay. And I tell parents, oh, he'll grow out of it. It's okay. It's fine. And so I think that's really powerful when you tell a
Mhm.
kid like, dude, yeah, I get it. I was the exact same way. It's natural and it's normal. And
You know
doesn't mean
what's
you're not super handsome and awesome.
what's interesting is that I ran a middle school after school program for a long time, not related to baseball. And I used to ask kids, do you ever play baseball? I was kind of interested in this neighborhood I worked in, how baseball was seen. And so many kids were like, oh man, I got hit. First time I got hit, I didn't want to play again. And I'm talking about really tough kids who would, who could handle some physical pain, kids who were incredible skateboarders, who were not afraid to try something that totally ended up with them bleeding and shredded and in the emergency room. But one getting hit by a baseball one time, and they never wanted to play again. So just, reiterating to what Coach Chop's saying, it's totally natural. And it's a very specific type of pain that isn't for everyone. And there's going to be inherent pain in anything you're passionate about, whether it's failure, whether it's a physical discomfort, whether it's emotional challenges that come up. But yeah, I guess we have to find the pains that we can tolerate that give us that the payoff is what we love. And hopefully if baseball is it for this young ball player, then to Chopper's point, yeah, you will grow out of it. It will not be like this forever.
Yeah, it's a time thing for sure. And when I went through it, as everybody does, I remember the guy's name, Derek McKee, threw it really hard, 10 years old, taller than everybody by a head and shoulders. And what kept me in love with the game during that process was tennis ball sandlot games in the backyard with my neighbors and my brothers. I love this game, love this thing that I'm doing. I don't like getting hurt, and I don't like Derek McKee throwing it really fast at me. So it was meant to be for me to play baseball. That was my love, and it took some nurturing and time, and nobody pushing me to get back on the box. It took time, and then something clicked when I was 13. A guy was pitching very fast, and I crushed it. I hit it over the fence. And that was the moment that I said, I'm not scared of the ball anymore. 3-year process it took, but nobody pushed me to play baseball. I
Mhm.
just loved it in the backyard, and I figured it out myself. And then I went on to be the career hit by pitch record holder at Brown University, baby.
Yeah.
And it turns into a wound, a scar, a battle scar that I'm very proud of. I can't be more proud of an award than that. I got hit more than anybody else in a college that's been around for almost 300 years. The last plate appearance in my college career, I got hit right in the helmet, Central Connecticut State. I jogged over, grabbed the ball, tossed it underhand to the pitcher, and that was it. The last competitive at bat. And I hang my hat on that. Very proud of it, but it's a time thing. But you keep doing what you're doing there, Dad. You got them. I'm done. I got nothing left. You guys, you got anything to hit before we close up shop?
Man, make sure if you haven't checked out the webinar for Coach Ballgame University, we're doing another one on Thursday, right, Coach?
That's right, Thursday night. So coaches, tell all the other coaches it'll be 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. We'll run it back. We did it this morning. 250 people just jetted out of their jobs for 45 minutes, and we talked coaching, and it was an awesome community. Let's do it again Thursday night. And then the online course, the Coach Ballgame Playbook, is live for registration. You can find it on my Instagram bio, my Facebook bio. But I am extremely proud of it. Put a lot of work into it, and it's we just wanted to make it great. We wanted to make it the best thing out there, and it's barely baseball. There's a lot of baseball, but it's barely baseball. It's a lot more about the mentorship and the coaching. So, yeah, man, proud to have you guys along with me and to see what spotlight courses come your direction, where you want to go. Chopper, I know you want to hit travel ball, Flick Money. You could go a number of different ways with a spotlight course yourself.
The inner world of baseball and the inner world of coaching, you know, the psychology, the mind state, the working with the humans, anything that we can come up with. I'm open to title ideas, name ideas, send them in. But I love helping human beings become the version of themselves that they want to. So
90% of the game is half mental and the other half is Coach Flicky. That's what was missing there. All right, guys. Well, it was a lovely morning. I love you both, and we'll see you Thursday night for another webinar.
Love you too.
Love you, buddy. Don't forget to rake, folks.
RAKE, random act of kindness every day.
Bang.